Here's why calories don't matter. I'm just kidding. If you've seen my videos before, you know that calories are quite important. They're the only thing that will dictate weight gain and weight loss. However, here's why sometimes they're not important. Because we're not looking for weight loss, we're looking for fat loss. And most people are looking for muscle maintenance or muscle gain. Regardless of calories, a high-protein diet will lead to a bigger increase in lean mass and a larger decrease in fat mass than a low-protein diet. So if you lose the same amount of weight, your body composition will be different depending on your macronutrients. If you only sleep 5.5 hours a night, you'll lose the exact same amount of weight if you sleep 8.5 hours, given that your caloric intake and expenditure are the same. However, far more of this weight will come from muscle tissue and much less will come from fat mass. Therefore, if you get insufficient sleep, you'll lose less fat and lose more muscle. In addition to macronutrients and sleep, micronutrients are important. Low vitamin D can increase your risk of muscle loss, independent of caloric intake. And the idea is that vitamin D modulates myostatin, which is a gene that's extremely important for the regulation of muscle growth. A potassium deficiency can also decrease muscle growth. And many other micronutrients also are extremely important for the regulation of muscle growth. And deficiencies in these micronutrients may lead you to gaining more fat and less muscle. Or in a caloric deficit, losing more muscle and losing less fat. Additionally, if all you did was endurance training, you'd probably lose more muscle than if you had resistance training, even at the exact same caloric intake and macronutrient distribution. And complete deconditioning or being sedentary increases the risk of muscle mass loss. So even more of the weight that you lose might come from muscle and less coming from fat. When doing a prolonged fast, approximately 2/3 of the weight that you lose come from lean mass. Therefore, you may lose a ton of weight on a prolonged fast, but a greater percentage will come from lean mass instead of fat. In addition, there are things that make getting into a caloric deficit more difficult. If you have hypothyroidism, your caloric expenditure will drastically decrease. So you may have to eat even less food to lose weight. In this study, restoring a deficiency in both zinc and selenium increased caloric expenditure by approximately 400 calories. So a deficiency in micronutrients can also lead to a decreased caloric expenditure, making getting into a caloric deficit more difficult. Additionally, the food that we eat has different thermogenic effects, meaning we'll burn off calories simply by consuming it. The most thermogenic food is alcohol. However, understand that alcohol has many other detrimental effects that, even though it has a high thermogenic effect, probably deems that alcohol isn't actually worth it. But protein is the highest thermogenic effect of the 3 most common macronutrients, meaning that if you ate 100 calories of protein, carbohydrates, and fat, you would burn the most calories after consuming the protein. The last thing I'll mention is protein distribution. When comparing 10 grams 8 times a day to 20 grams 4 times a day, or 40 grams 2 times a day, it's concluded that the 20 grams 4 times a day is the most beneficial for muscle growth. So if you're consuming it in a pattern of 10 grams 8 times a day or 40 grams 2 times a day, if you're gaining weight, you may gain just slightly more fat mass than muscle mass. And if you're losing weight, you may be at risk of losing a little bit more muscle compared to fat. You see, none of these things negate that caloric intake and caloric expenditure will change your weight. Sleep, micronutrient intake, and macronutrient intake will alter the composition of this weight. And there are many factors that dictate whether or not it will be hard or easy to get into a caloric deficit or a caloric surplus in the first place. But at the end of the day, calories are the only thing that matters when it comes to the fluctuation of your weight. But you're probably better off optimizing macronutrients, micronutrients, and your lifestyle to look and feel the best while going through this process. And if you'd like an individualized approach to your nutrition and lifestyle to optimize your health, energy, and body composition, send me a DM to sign up for coaching.